The alert came on the bridge at hour 0 plus 7 minutes. Before the Picket destroyer Bashir had even finished aligning for the long lane to hollow reach, and it came in the flat synthetic voice of the after-quarters sensor mast that nobody on the bridge had ever liked. 3 contacts, the voice said, bearing 248 by low 15, closing at attack vector. Captain Idris Quill did not turn his head from the forward plot. He set the small steel cup of coffee in its holder beside the helm. In the ring of stains that had been there since the Bashir was first commissioned, 11 years before, and he opened his mouth and gave the first order of the convoy run in the same flat voice the mast had used. General Quarters, bring up the main array. Tell the convoy to maintain formation and increase to 0.7 of standard. The Bashir went to General Quarters in 11 seconds. Quill counted them himself under his breath, in the old habit drilled into him at the academy by a gunnery instructor who had died at the Battle of the Tarn Belt 9 years ago. The 11-second standard had been the gunnery instructor's joke and his demand, both at once, and Quill had never once in his 19 years of command let his ship fail it. 3 contacts confirmed, the sensor officer said. Her name was Lieutenant Vasna Kaur, and she was on her first deep lane run as senior sensor. Spit-class corvettes, hesh-vur build, plot the convoy. The forward plot bloomed in the dim air over the helm. 31 freighters in a long, thin, 2 abreast, their old chemical burn engines, pushing them through the rim of the vell-carras shoal at 0.3 of standard. At the freighter pace, it would take 50 hours and change to cross to hollow reach. The Bashir was the only escort, sir, Kaur said. 3 more contacts, bearing 190 by low 8. They were sitting behind the inner dust ring. Quill let his eyes move across the plot. 6 corvettes, in 2 arms of 3 in the classic hesh-vur double bracket. He had seen the diagram in a captured operations manual 7 years ago, and drawn it once from memory in his quarters that night, on the back of a flimsy, in pencil. He kept the flimsy in the drawer of the chart table behind the helm, under 3 other flimsies of other things he had seen and not been allowed to read again. Helm, he said. Come 12 degrees high. Yawn the bow toward the 190 arm. Make it look like we're chasing the new contacts. Coming 12 high, sir. The Bashir was an old ship, 640 meters long, 2,400 metric tons of weathered combat alloy, her long wedge bow scarred by 18 previous engagements. Her engines made a sound at maneuver that the old engineers called the Bashir's cough, a deep, low, rolling thump. 2 beats and a pause, 2 beats and a pause. The cough came up now as the helm answered. 248 arm closing, Kaur said. Range 31 light seconds. They're going to bracket. Of course they are. Quill said it without inflection. The hesh-vur were precise people. They had not lost a convoy lane in 11 years of this war by being inventive. They were going to bracket the Bashir from 2 sides at once, peel her off the convoy, and let one arm fall into the freighter column from the side that was now exposed. It was, on paper, a perfect plan. Lieutenant Kaur, Quill said, tag the leading corvette in each arm. Designate them lead alpha and lead beta. Light them up on the targeting board for the gun crews. Tagging now. Mr. Fail, Quill said. The weapons officer was a stocky old chief named Fail Renz, 52 standard years old, who had been with the Bashir longer than Quill had. Load mixed. Rail 12 in fragmenter. Rail 8 in solid. Save the kinetics for later. I want to see if the bow plating on a Spit-class still goes at 60 kilos. Rail 12 fragmenter. Rail 8 solid. Kinetics on hold. Fail's voice came back instantly. He had done this drill 140 times in 11 years. The numbers in his voice did not move. Helm, Quill said. On my mark, hard down 40 and bring the keel through 180. Show them the dorsal. Then back up 40 and present the rail 12. The helmsman was a kid named Aver Pesh, 2 months on the bridge. He swallowed. He said, aye, sir. Hard down 40, keel 180, back up 40, present, rail 12 on your mark. Eyes forward, helm. Aye, sir. The corvettes came in. The plot tightened. The 2 arms became 2 converging cones of light, the hesh-vur double bracket, and Quill watched them come and counted, again under his breath, the way he had counted the general quarters, the 11-second drill, the long, quiet seconds before the first weapon discharge of every engagement of his life. Lead alpha at 12 light seconds, lead beta at 12.1.
Mark, Quill said.
The Bashir rolled. The cough became a roar, the inertial dampeners hammered into the deck plates, and the long wedge of the ship turned on her own length so fast that the helm groaned. Quill did not feel it through his boots, the dampeners caught it, but he saw the plot pivot, and he saw the dorsal of his ship come around to face the wrong arm, and he saw the corvettes of lead alpha overshoot their solution by the fraction, of a degree that they could not afford. Now, Quill said, Rail 12, lead Alpha. Rail 8, lead Alpha. The Bashir fired. Rail 12 was a twin-barrel fragmenter that threw a 60-kilo splinter pack at 0.3 of light. Rail 8 was a single-barrel solid that threw 120 kilos of inert tungsten at 0.25. They struck the leading corvette of the 248 arm half a second apart. The fragmenter went first. It walked across the bow plate of the corvette in a long, ragged line, the splinter pack peeling the hull skin off in strips, exposing the lattice underneath. The solid hit a heartbeat later, square in the middle of the exposed lattice, and the corvette came apart from the bow back to the dorsal magazine in a single white expanding flash that the plot rendered as a brief soundless asterisk and then nothing. Lead Alpha killed, Core said. Her voice was flat. She had said the same words on simulator drills 1,000 times. Kill one, Fail said. He was already reloading. Helm, Quill said. Roll back up. Present Rail 4. Rolling back up. Rail 4. Lid Beta was already turning. The hesh-vur captain in command of the 190 arm had seen Lead Alpha die, and he was not slow. He had pulled his own arm into a wider hook, opening the angle, refusing to close on the same vector that had just killed his counterpart. The remaining 2 corvettes of the 248 arm had broken formation entirely and were dropping back to find a new alignment. Quill watched it on the plot. The gunnery instructor at the academy had once said, "The first kill of any engagement is the easiest one. The rest will cost you." He picked up the coffee. He took a sip. It was cold. 4 ready, Fail said. Rail 4 was a smaller weapon, a high-cycle plasma chase gun, used at this range to keep enemies from 2 bursts. Quill said, "Across the gap between the lead beta and his second. Don't kill them. Make them widen. 2 bursts across the gap, suppression only." The Bashir fired again. Rail 4 put a long, bright thread of plasma across the space between the second and third ships of the 190 arm, a hot line that they would not cross. The hesh-vur captain on the other side did the only sensible thing. He widened. His arm fell into a long, slanted formation, 3 ships in a stretched diagonal, no longer able to bracket the Bashir without a full reset. "They're peeling off," Core said. "Lead Beta is breaking out to 9.5 high. The remaining Alpha pair is regrouping at 260 low. Pursue?" Fail said. It was not a question, it was the routine prompt. "No," Quill said. "We sit on the convoy. The 248 arm is going to come back. The 190 arm is going to swing wide and try a head-on. Bring us to the convoy spine. Tell the freighters to tighten to 2,000 meters spacing. Convoy Titan 2000, coming to spine." The Bashir slid back into the long, thin column of freighters and took her station above and behind the convoy spine, and the bridge crew breathed for the first time in 19 minutes, and Quill set the cold coffee down and signaled the steward for a fresh cup, and the long 50-hour lane began in earnest. By hour 2, the second push came. The hesh-vur captain of the 190 arm had not gone wide. He had gone short. He had cut behind the convoy column, used the freighters as cover for his own approach, and came up on the Bashir from the convoy's own flank, where the destroyer's bow was committed forward, and her stern array was the only thing that could answer. Core saw him at 6 light seconds. She called it in the same flat voice. "Stern contact, 2 corvettes. Breaking from the freighter column at 6 light seconds. They're using the freighters." "Of course they are," Quill said. He had thought he might have an hour. He had had less than 2. He set the second cup of coffee down. He turned in his chair. He did not get up. "Stern array, all rails. Mr. Fail, fragmenter and solid both. Helm, hold spine. Don't yaw. Stern array, all rails. Fragmenter and solid. Holding spine, sir." The Bashir did not turn. She did not present her dorsal or her ventral. She held the convoy spine with her wedge bow committed forward, and she fought the stern engagement with her stern array alone, because to turn was to expose the convoy column to the still undamaged lead beta arm wide on the high side. The stern array was older than the bow. It had been refit in the second of the Bashir's 2 refits and had not been touched in 7 years. It cycled slow. It heated fast. Fail ran it the way he had been running it for 9 years, with the patience of a man who knew his weapon better than any test bench, and the first stern burst put a clean line across the bow of the leading Spit-class corvette and stripped its forward sensor mast off. The corvette did not die. It went deaf. It tried to turn into the engagement on inertials, and Fail, without being told, walked the second burst across its dorsal magazine. It went up. "Stern kill," Core said. "That's 2. Second contact, closing. Range 4 light seconds. All stern rails now." The Bashir fired everything in her stern array at once. It was not a maneuver that any modern destroyer was supposed to do. It was a brute solution from 20 years before. It hammered the second corvette with every weapon the stern could bring to bear in a single ragged volley, and it killed the corvette outright at 3 light seconds. The plot showed the contact bloom and then go dark before the corvette had completed its evasion turn, but it also overloaded 3 of the stern array's cooling fins. Stern fins at red, the engineering officer said on the open channel. Lieutenant Commander Olin Mast had been on the Bashir longer than any of them except Fail. I need 15 minutes on the stern, Captain, or I'll lose them. Take 15, Olin. Bow array carries it. Mr. Fail, shift to bow ready. Bow ready. Stern kill, that's 3, Core said. Her voice had not moved. 3 in 2 hours, Fail said quietly. He did not say it like a brag. He said it like a man checking a number against another number in his head. They're going to come harder, Quill said. He looked at the plot. The lead beta arm was still out wide, refusing to engage, the high-side hesh-vur captain pulling back to think. The remaining alpha pair was regrouping at 260 low. The 2 stern attackers were dead. 3 kills, 2 on the bow array, 1 on the stern. The Bashir intact. The convoy intact. 48 hours remaining on the lane. Quill drank the cold second cup of coffee. He turned to the senior comms officer, an alien named Sub-Lieutenant Geliri Tan, third caste of the Terran Federation that had joined Earth's escort service 11 years ago and never left. Gel, send to Hollow Reach. Tell them we are engaged. Tell them we are intact. Tell them the convoy is intact. Tell them estimated time of arrival is unchanged. Then close the channel. And Gel, don't tell them we're alone. Gel Irie's small triple-pupiled eyes did not blink. I will not, sir. The Bashir held the spine. The hesh-vur lead beta arm sat at high 9-5, watching. The remaining alpha pair regrouped at low 260. The lane ran on. Hour 3, hour 4, hour 5. Quill did not leave the bridge. The hesh-vur were not stupid. They had lost 3 corvettes in 2 hours. And now they were doing the thing they did best, which was to wait. They had 4 ships left in the engagement zone. They were not going to throw another 4 at the same problem the same way. They were going to call for more. They were going to come back with the count they needed. At hour 6, the convoy lost the first freighter. It was not to enemy fire. It was to a faulty injector on the chemical burn of a long-haul tanker called Marath Ascent, an old hull 30 years out of yard, which had been showing yellow on the convoy's engineering feed for the last 16 hours. The injector seized. The Ascent dropped off the convoy spine at point 1 of standard, falling behind the column by 200 meters every minute. Captain, the convoy liaison said. He was a civilian, a tired man named Bren Kale with a long face and a tight collar. Ascent's lost an injector. She's falling out. She wants a tow. How long to fix? Her engineer is on the line. He says 4 hours. He says he can't do it slower than that. Tell him to do it in 3. Tell him I'll send a damage party from my own engineering if he needs it. Aye, sir. The Ascent began to fall back. The convoy spine held formation around her gap. The hesh-vur on the high side saw it. Quill watched them see it on the plot. The lead beta arm shifted very slightly off its watching arc. It came down by a fraction of a degree. Fail, Quill said. Sit on the beta arm. They twitch. You light the leading corvette. Don't kill. Make them flinch. Sit on beta. Suppression on twitch. Mast came up onto the bridge in work coveralls with his gloves still on. A small man with a long, thin gray braid down his spine. Captain. Stern fins amber. Full stern in 40 minutes if you don't fire it. And we've used 12% of the rail 12 fragmenter in 2 engagements. 12%. 48 hours to go. Aye, sir. The math was generous. The math also assumed the rest of the engagements would be the same kind. They would not be. Olin, tell the magazine chiefs to start prepping rail 4 kinetics for crossload to rail 12 in an emergency. I want it ready by hour 8. Crossload to 12. Aye, sir. Mast went back below. The Ascent began the slow repair of her injector. Hour 7 came and went. At hour 8, the 4 corvettes were joined by 4 more. They came in on a single vector from the high 185 quarter, the band of dust that bordered the vell-carras shoal on the upper hemisphere, and they came in lit. They did not run silent. They wanted to be seen. The hesh-vur tactics manual was very clear on this point. When you have superiority of number, you make sure the enemy knows. 8 contacts, Core said. Spit class, 4 of them. Larger, karsh-class frigates. Karsh, Fail repeated. He had not heard the word in 9 years. Karsh-class frigate? Confirmed. 4 of them. Bow profile matches the Tarnbelt files. The Tarnbelt files. Quill had been there 9 years ago as a junior gunnery officer when the Karsh-class had killed a Federation cruiser in 11 minutes and 3 escorts in another 4. He had not seen one in person since. He had drawn the bow profile from memory on a flimsy in his quarters. He kept that flimsy too. It was in the same drawer. 8 ships, Fail said. 8 ships, Quill said. On us? On the convoy. How long to engagement, Core? Quill said. Closing at attack vector, range 18 light seconds. Bracket plus head-on. They're going to use the Karsh's head-on and let the Spits come in from both arms again. Of course they are, Quill said. He did not have time, this time, for the small mean joy. He did not even have time for the cold coffee. He sat both hands flat on the arms of the captain's chair. He counted 1 to 11 under his breath. He spoke. All hands, this is the captain. We have 8 contacts inbound, 4 heavies. We hold the spine of this convoy and we do not let them through. Engineering, I need every system you have. Gunnery, I need the Rail 12 fragmenter to last us 40 more hours. Sensor and comms, I need the convoy to keep formation and the hollow reach feet open but quiet. Stay at your stations. Stay alive. That's all. He closed the channel. He looked at Core. He looked at Fail. He looked at the plot. Aver, he said. The helmsman, the kid, the 2 months kid. Bring us off the spine. 15 high. Make the Bashir the first target. Make them all look at us before they look at the freighters. Avor Pesh did not swallow this time. He answered like a man twice his age. Aye, sir, 15 high. Make them look at us. The Bashir came off the spine of the convoy and rose, deliberate and slow, into a position 15 degrees above the freighter column, and her old chemical burn engines made the cough come up again. 2 beats and a pause, 2 beats and a pause, and the 8 hesh-vur contacts on the plot bent their course ever so slightly toward the destroyer, rising against the freighter's silhouette. It was, Quill knew, the only move on the board. He had no second ship to send. He had no minefield to spread. He had no high ground to take. He had only the trick of standing out, of making himself the obvious shape in the dim, of pulling the hesh-vur attention onto his old wedge bow and away from the long, thin column of civilian hulls behind him. It would work for one pass. After that, he would have to find another trick. Mr. Fail, he said. Sir, karsh-class frigate. The bow plate is 12 inches of laminate over a meter of inert dispersant. We won't kill it from the front. We have to get it on the dorsal or the stern. The fragmenter walks across the laminate but doesn't get through the dispersant. We use the Rail 8 solid in concert. Rail 8 goes first into the dorsal at an angle to crack the dispersant. Rail 12 walks the fragmenter into the crack. Don't go straight on. Make them turn first. Aye, and Fail. Sir, kill the lead Karsh on the first pass. The other 3 will hesitate. The Spits will lose their bracket if the heavies hesitate. We get 1 shot at it. Make it count. Aye, Captain. Designate lead Karsh, plot the dorsal. Designating lead Karsh, plotting dorsal. Avor, on my mark, hard left 30, dive 20 and bring the Rail 8 to bear on the lead Karsh dorsal. After the solid lands, roll right 90 and bring the Rail 12 to bear. Then dive again 50 and present the ventral. After the second hit, run for the freighter column. Do not let the Spits get behind us, sir. Hard left 30, dive 20, Rail 8, roll right 90, Rail 12, dive 50, present ventral, run for the column, 3 minutes, hold position. The hesh-vur came on. The 4 karsh-class frigates were 320 meters of squat dark hull each, with bow plate the color of old iron and a single forward gun mount that could throw a railing the size of a cargo container at point 2 of light. They came in line abreast, the 4 Spit-class corvettes flaring out into their double bracket on the flanks. Quill watched them on the plot. He thought for one short breath of the Tarn Belt. He set the thought down. Mark, he said. The Bashir rolled left and dove. Her cough went deep. The inertials hammered. The wedge bow came around and the Rail 8, the single-barrel solid, fired 1 round of 120 kilos of tungsten at .25 light, square into the dorsal of the leading Karsh-class frigate at an angle of 45 degrees off the perpendicular. The dorsal cracked. The dispersant did its job for the first quarter second. The round did not punch through clean, but the impact opened a long, ragged seam in the dispersant layer, 18 meters long and 3 meters deep at its center, like a wound in dark muscle. Now, Quill said, Rail 12. The Bashir rolled right 90. The cough roared. The dorsal of the destroyer came over the top, and the Rail 12 fragmenter fired its 60-kilo splinter pack at .3 light, directly into the seam. The splinter pack went into the seam and detonated inside the dispersant. The lead Karsh broke in half along its dorsal at hour 8 plus 11 minutes. The forward half and the aft half separated and continued forward on inertia, the forward half tumbling, the aft half venting hot atmosphere from the broken dorsal in a long white plume. Lead Karsh killed, Core said. Her voice this time almost moved. Kill 4, Fail said. He sounded surprised. He had not been sure the trick would work. Eivor, dive 50, present ventral, run for the column. Aye, sir, diving. The Bashir dove. The cough deepened. She presented her ventral plate to the remaining 3 karshes, which was the heaviest armor she carried. 20 inches of laminate over 2 meters of dispersant, refit work from the 2nd yard, and the 3 karsh-class frigates, doing the only thing their tactics manual allowed when their lead ship died on. The first exchange hesitated. The Spits on the flanks lost their bracket. Quill had been right. Run for the column, Eivor said almost to himself. Running for the column. The Bashir ran for the column. She put the freighter spine between her and the 4 heavy hesh-vur ships still in the engagement zone, and she came down into station above the convoy spine again, with her ventral plate facing outward and her bow array still hot. Stern array, Olin, Quill said. Full, sir. Came back online at hour 8:07. Good, Captain Core said. The Spits are re-engaging from the high side. Led Beta and his second. The Alpha pair from the low side. The 3 remaining karshes are reforming. They're going to come again. Slower this time. Of course they are. Quill picked up the coffee. He set it down without drinking it. He keyed the all-ship. All hands, we took the lead karsh on the first pass. The other 3 will be cautious. The Spits will press because the karshes are cautious. We hold the spine and we kill the Spits as they come and we wait the karshes out. Engineering. Rail 12 fragmenter remaining? Mast's voice came up. 83%, sir. Sensor and gunnery. Hold to suppression bursts until the Spits commit. Comms sent to hollow reach. Tell them we are engaged with 8 contacts. Tell them we are intact. Tell them estimated time of arrival is unchanged. And don't tell them we're alone, Fell said quietly. And don't tell them we're alone, Quill said. He closed the channel. He drank the coffee. It was, for the first time in 9 hours, warm. The next 8 hours were the work. The 3 remaining karshes did not come in head-on again. They had learned. They stayed at 12 light seconds and used their forward guns to throw cargo container railings at the convoy. The Bashir intercepted with Rail 4 plasma bursts. Fail used 41 thermal cycles in 8 hours. The 4 surviving Spit-class corvettes pressed in 2 arms, the lead Beta and the Alpha pair, and came in on hooks and bracket attempts 5 separate times. Each time the Bashir held the spine and broke the bracket with a single suppression, burst a single yaw at the right second. Each time the Spits broke off at hour 10, the Lidbit tried a low-angle attack from below the freighter column. The Bashir caught him with the stern array fragmenter as he came up behind, the Marith ascent, and Fail killed lead Beta clean at 4 light seconds with 2 rounds of Rail 8 solid into the bow. Kill 5, Fail said. At hour 12, the Alpha pair tried a slow approach under the dust ring of the inner shoal, an old hesh-vur trick that had worked on a Federation escort 8 years ago in the Scarrow-Meyer engagement. Quill had drawn the approach line on a flimsy in his quarters. The flimsy was in the drawer behind the helm. He waited until the Alpha pair was at 3 light seconds and committed. Then he fired the stern array fragmenter, and the bow rail 8 at the same instant into the same ship. The trailing Alpha corvette broke and ran for the high side. Kill 6, Fail said. At hour 14, the Marith ascent got her injector fixed and came back up to point 3 of standard. At hour 16, the second karsh-class frick tried to use the dust ring of the inner shoal to come in on the convoy stern. Quill walked the destroyer 2,000 kilometers off the spine to meet it on a vector the karsh had not anticipated, and the trick this time was the rail 8 solid into the ventral at an angle Fail had calculated from the bow geometry of the first kill. The second karsh broke at the keel. Kill 7, Fail said. He did not this time sound surprised. He sounded grim. 2 karshes left, Core said. Quill had not slept. He had not eaten. He had drunk 17 cups of coffee in 16 hours. The steward, an older man named Yeb who had served on the Bashir longer than Quill had, brought him a small plate of brown bread and hard cheese at hour 17 and stood by the captain's chair until Quill ate it. Yeb did not say anything. At hour 18, the long array picked up the first reinforcement. 8 more Spit-class corvettes, coming in from the high 285 quadrant at attack vector 4 light minutes out. 8 more, Core said. Of course there are, Quill said. The bridge crew did not this time breathe. Fail did the math in his head, out loud, quietly, with his hand on the rail 12 targeting board. 2 karshes plus 8 new Spits plus the surviving 4. 14 contacts. We have rail 12 fragmenter at 68%. Rail 8 solid at 71%. Rail 4 cycles at 192 remaining. We can fight 8 engagements at the rate mast called clean. We have 14 ships inbound. We are 32 hours from Hollow Reach. That's the math, Quill said. That's the math, sir, Mr. Fail. Sir, switch the rate. Mass clean rate is too generous from here. We go to attrition rate. Fragmenter on dorsal seams only. Solid into exposed lattices only. No more interception bursts unless the round is going to hit a freighter. We let the small ones come in close. We make them pay for it. Captain. Attrition rate. Fail. Sir, we use the bow ram if we have to. The bridge did not for a long second make a sound. Fail said, Aye, sir, we use the bow ram if we have to. The bow ram was not a weapon. It was a piece of structural reinforcement, 40 meters of solid forged combat alloy at the very point of the Bashir's wedge bow, a leftover from a refit job done in the second yard cycle. It had never been used. It had not been used by any Earth destroyer in 11 years of war. It existed because the engineers in the second yard had not wanted to take the weight out. Quill had read the spec sheets. He had calculated once, in his quarters, on a flimsy, what mass a Bashir-class destroyer at 0.1 of light could deliver into the bow plate of a karsh-class frigate. The number had been ugly. He had kept the flimsy. Eivor, Quill said, if we go bow ram, you listen to me only. You do not yaw, you do not roll. You drive the wedge into the target and you hold the line. Understood? Yes, sir. Good. The Bashir held the convoy spine. The 8 new Spit-class corvettes came on. The 2 surviving Karsh-class frigates pulled back and out, holding standoff, throwing the occasional cargo container railing at extreme range to keep the Bashir's rail of 4 cycles burning. The Bashir intercepted only the ones that were going to hit freighters. Fail did the math on each one. He let 3 of them pass into open space. He intercepted 2 of them. He did not interrupt the rail 12 fragmenter for a single one of them. The new Spits came in at hour 19. 8 ships and 2 arms of 4. The classic hesh-vur double bracket again, the formation that had killed convoys in this war for 11 years. The Bashir killed the leading corvette of the high arm on the first exchange, with a single rail 8 solid into the bow lattice at 6 light seconds. Kill 8, Fail said. The Bashir killed the leading corvette of the low arm 41 seconds later, with a single rail 8 solid into the dorsal, at 4 light seconds. Kill 9, Fail said. The remaining 6 Spits broke their bracket and retreated to 4 light seconds standoff. The 2 surviving Karsh-class frigates pulled wider still. The engagement froze. Standoff, Corps said. All 12 remaining contacts at standoff. They're not coming. They will, Quill said. When they have more. Hour 20 came. Hour 21. The standoff held. The Bashir held the spine. The convoy held formation. The 2 surviving Karsh-class frigates sat at 12 light seconds and threw the occasional standoff round, and Fail, on the captain's order, ignored every round that was not on a freighter trajectory. 3 more rounds passed into open space. Fail intercepted 1. At hour 22, the second reinforcement came on the long array. It was not corvettes. It was not Spits. It was a single ship, large profile, unfamiliar, coming in at .04 of light from the high 280 quadrant, 6 light minutes out. Corps called the read 3 times before she trusted it. 1 contact, cruiser class, hesh-vur mev-tur, new build. Fail looked at Quill. Quill looked at the plot. The mev-tur cruiser class was, according to the intelligence files that had crossed the Bashir's chart table 8 months ago, the hesh-vur's new pattern, a 600-meter cruiser with bowplate the Karshes did not have and a forward gun mount the Karshes could not match. The mev-tur had been launched in the high orbital yards above hesh-vur Prime 14 months ago. The first one had not yet appeared in combat. The first one had just appeared. 6 light minutes off the Bashir's bow. That's the math, Quill said. That's the math, sir, Fail said. Jelly Tan spoke for the first time in 4 hours. Her translator collar buzzed once, as it always did when she chose her words carefully. Captain, I have, in the last hour, picked up 3 intermittent friendly bands on the deep long array. Pattern matches Earth Federation military comms encryption. Source unconfirmed. Range possibly 7 light minutes. Possibly more. The bridge went still. Friendly? Fail said. The pattern is right. The handshake is incomplete. Don't transmit, Quill said. Don't acknowledge. Keep listening. Tell me if the pattern firms up. Aye, Captain. Quill set the cup down. He did not pick it up again. He looked at the plot. The mev-tur cruiser was inbound. The 2 surviving Karshes were widening to flank her arrival. The 6 remaining Spits were reforming. Mr. Fail. Sir, bow ram is on the table. Aye, Captain, bow ram on the table. Eivor, sir. Watch the mev-tur. If she commits to a head-on, we let her come. I want her at 4 light seconds before we move. Then we drive the wedge into her starboard quarter, at the seam where the forward gun mount joins the dorsal plate. If we hit clean, we take the gun out and we crack the dorsal. If we don't, we take her with us. Yes, sir. Eivor Pesh, the 2-month kid, did not blink. He said it with his hands flat on the helm. Drive the wedge into her starboard quarter, the seam below the forward gun. Hold the line. Good, Captain, Kor said. mev-tur is committing. Course and speed are head on. Range 4 light minutes and closing at .04. How long? 61 minutes to contact. 61 minutes, Quill said. He turned to the steward, who had been standing at the back of the bridge for 19 hours. Yeb. Bread and cheese for the crew. Every station, 3 minutes per man. Aye, sir. Yeb went below. He came back with 2 crew off the 3rd watch with trays and brought bread and cheese to every station, bridge, gun crews, engineering deck, sensor and comms. He brought it to Quill last. Quill ate it standing at the captain's chair without sitting down. The mev-tur came on. The 2 surviving karshes fell into a wide escort 2,000 kilometers off either flank in a posture that was almost ceremonial. The 6 remaining spits formed up behind the cruiser in a tight wedge. Quill counted. 7 kills so far. 9 more inbound behind a fresh capital hull he had never seen in combat. The math was not in his favor. He had not since hour 14 thought it was. He keyed the all-ship. All hands, this is the captain. We have 1 cruiser class and 8 escorts inbound. I will put the Bashir between the cruiser and the convoy. I will use the bow ram if the engagement requires it. The crew forward will go to the after sections at my mark. We do not let the cruiser through. That's all. He closed the channel. He turned to Jellery. Jell, any firming on the friendly band? Captain, the handshake is firming. Pattern now consistent with Earth Federation heavy escort group. Possibly 2 ships. Possibly 3. Range still uncertain. Closing at unknown speed. How long until I know? Possibly an hour. Possibly less. Then it'll be after the mev-tur is on us. Possibly, sir. Don't transmit. Don't acknowledge. Aye, Captain. Quill turned to Fail. Fail, sir. We may not get help. We engage as if we do not. Aye, Captain. The mev-tur came on. The Bashir held the spine. The minutes ran. At hour 22 plus 41, the mev-tur opened her forward gun at standoff. The first round was a cargo container railing the size of a fuel pod, fired at .1 of light, on a clean trajectory for the spine of the freighter Marath Ascent. Fail did not ask. He fired rail 4 at standoff and walked the bright plasma thread across the round's path at the limit of engagement range. The round detonated short. The Ascent did not break formation. 41 cycles remaining on rail 4, Fail said. Use them, Quill said. The mev-tur fired again. Fail intercepted it. Fail intercepted. The karsh-class frigates on the flanks held standoff. The spits behind the cruiser did not yet move. At hour 22 plus 53, the cruiser was at 6 light seconds. The karshies split outward. The spits opened their wedge into bracket pairs, and the mev-tur committed to the head-on. Eivor, Quill said. Off the spine, slowly. Make her think we're running. Off the spine, slowly. Aye, sir. The Bashir came off the convoy spine and rose, slow, as if she were trying to put more distance between her hull and the heavy cruiser inbound. The mev-tur, whose captain had read the same intelligence files Quill had read, did the thing the intelligence files said a mev-tur captain would do. She came on. She did not slow. She tried to close before the Bashir could clear the convoy. Range 4 light seconds, Kor said. Mark, Quill said. The Bashir did not run. The Bashir's old chemical burn engines hammered up to full. The cough deepened to a roar. The inertial slammed, and the long wedge bow turned hard down, and Eivor Pesh, 2 months on the bridge, drove the Bashir's wedge directly into the path of the inbound mev-tur, the seam where the cruiser's forward gun mount joined the dorsal plate. The mev-tur captain did the only thing he could do. He fired his forward gun at 0 range. The cargo container railing left the gun mount at .1 of light. It hit the Bashir's bow plate above the wedge, 10 meters above the line of the ram, and it punched through the laminate and through the dispersant, and through 3 compartments of the forward section before its kinetic energy dissipated against the bulkhead at frame 14. The forward section of the Bashir vented. The bridge's plot did not show it for a fraction of a second, and then it did, and the loss of pressure in the forward compartments showed as a small red line on the damage feed, and the casualty count on the same feed began to climb. It climbed by 23 names in 11 seconds. The Bashir's wedge bow, with the 40 meters of forged combat alloy at its point, hit the starboard quarter of the mev-tur cruiser at the seam below the forward gun mount at a relative velocity of .09 of light. The wedge went through the seam. It went through the dispersant. It went through the lattice underneath. It came out the other side of the cruiser at the dorsal, 6 meters from where Quill had told Eivor to put it. with a quarter of the mev-tur's forward section riding on the front of it. The mev-tur's reactor went 2.8 seconds later. The plot went white, the visual feeds went dark. The Bashir's old chemical burn engines, with their long cough now broken to a single deep continuous rumble, carried her through the expanding white cloud of the dead cruiser and out the other side with her bow plate shattered above the line of the ram, with her forward compartments vented, with 23 names on the casualty feed, and the count still climbing. The Bashir came out of the white cloud. The cloud thinned. The plot came back up. The two karsh-class frigates were tumbling. The reactor blast had caught them at the inner edge of their escort positions, and both ships were broken. Not killed, not yet, but broken, their dorsal plates open, their flanks venting. The 6 Spit-class corvettes behind the cruiser had broken formation and were running for the high quarter. "Kill 10, Fail said quietly. His voice finally moved. "mev-tur killed by ram." "Karsh status?" Quill said. "Both tumbling, both venting, neither under power. Estimated time to recovery, 20 minutes or never." "Spits? Running. Casualty count?" A voice came up from below decks. It was the chief medical officer, an old woman named Dr. Nazira Bell. "Captain, 28 dead in the forward section, 11 wounded. Forward compartments 1 through 3 vented. Bulkhead at frame 14 holding. Forward array offline. Bow rail 8 offline. Bow rail 12 operational on backup feed. Mr. Mast." Mast came up on the engineering channel. He sounded, for the first time in 22 hours, hoarse. "Captain, we rammed at .09. The wedge held. The bow plate above the wedge did not. We have a clean structural line from frame 1 to frame 14 and an unclean one above it. I can hold her together if you don't push past .05 on the engines. I cannot give you bow rail 8. I can give you bow rail 12 on backup. Stern array is full. Rail 4 cycles at 31. Rail 12 fragmenter remaining, 44%. Casualty count is at 28. 28 forward, sir. 11 wounded. 2 on the engineering deck from the kinetic shock wave through the keel. 1 serious. Dr. Bell has him." Quill closed his eyes for 1 second. He opened them. "Bring the wounded to the after medical. Seal the forward compartments. Tell the magazine chiefs to cross-load rail 12 fragmenter to the stern. We fight from the stern array and rail 12 on backup. Helm, hold us off the spine and bring us back to convoy escort station." "Aye, sir." The Bashir came back to the convoy spine. The convoy held formation. The Maratha ascent was still on the spine. The 30 other freighters were still in column. The hesh-vur escort element was broken. The mev-tur was dead. 26 hours remaining on the lane. Quill turned to Geliritan. "Gel friendly. Captain. Pattern firmed at hour 23 plus 4. 2 heavy Earth Federation escorts. Course closing. Estimated arrival at our position, 14 hours. 14 hours. Yes, Captain. Don't transmit yet." "Aye, Captain." Quill turned to Fail. "For 14 hours, sir. The Spits will be back before then. So will whatever the hesh-vur send to replace the mev-tur." "Aye, Captain. We fight on the stern. We use rail 12 through the backup feed. We do not let them through." "Aye, Captain." The Bashir held the convoy spine. The dead mev-tur drifted in pieces across 2,000 kilometers of dust and silence behind her, and the 2 tumbling karshes drifted with it, and the 6 retreating Spits ran for the high quarter and were lost in the dust ring at the boundary of the engagement zone. Hour 24 came. Hour 25. The next push came at hour 28, and it was the 3rd reinforcement the hesh-vur had sent in 28 hours. It was 12 Spit-class corvettes and 2 karsh-class frigates, fresh from the rear, lit and visible at the long array 4 light minutes out. They came in slow and methodical. They did not bracket. They did not flank. They came at the convoy in a single dense formation, like a fist. Quill had not slept in 28 hours. He stood up from the captain's chair for the first time, opened the drawer at the chart table, looked at the flimsies, the bow profile sketch, the double bracket, the calculation with the ugly number, and closed it again. He walked back to the captain's chair. He sat down. He keyed the all-ship. "All hands, this is the captain. We have 14 contacts inbound. Earth Federation reinforcements are confirmed inbound at 14 hours. The contacts will reach us in 51 minutes. We hold the spine. We fight from the stern array and rail 12 backup. We do not let them through. Engineering, hold the bow plate. Sensor, watch the deep array for any new arrivals. Comms, do not transmit. Stay at your stations. We hold." He closed the channel. The 14 inbound hesh-vur ships came on. Quill watched them come. He watched the hesh-vur captain in command of the fresh formation make the only mistake the hesh-vur had made in the entire engagement. The fresh captain, who had not been there for the first 28 hours, came in at the standard attack vector. He did not vary. He did not flank. He came at the Bashir and the convoy in a single dense formation, because the hesh-vur tactics manual said that against a damaged enemy with broken forward arrays, the correct approach was a concentrated, overwhelming press. The captain of the fresh formation did not know that the Bashir's stern array was at full, and that the Rail 12 fragmenter had been cross-loaded into the stern. Quill let him come. Fail, sir. At 3 light seconds, full stern. Everything. Fragmenter solid Rail 4 cycles, all of it. We give them 1 full salvo and we kill the lead karsh and as many spits as we can with the fragmenter spray. Then we present the bow and we use the Rail 12 backup on the survivors. Full stern at 3, bow Rail 12 after. Sir. Sir, you don't yaw, you don't roll. You give fail the stern at 3. You give fail the bow at 30 seconds after. Hold the line. Aye, sir, hold the line. The fresh hesh-vur formation came on. The lead karsh came first. The dense pack of spits came behind. They did not flank. They did not vary. They came in. At 3 light seconds, the Bashir presented her stern. The stern array fired everything she had at once. The lead karsh broke in half along the bow plate, killed clean. Kill 11, Fail said. The fragmenter spray from Rail 12, fired in a single broad cone across the dense spit formation, walked across 4 of the leading corvettes simultaneously. 3 of them broke. The 4th held, scarred, but its bow array went dark. Kills 12. 13-14, Fail said. +1 mission killed. Bow Rail 12, Quill said. Bow Rail 12. The Bashir presented her bow, the wedge, broken above the ram line, still iconic in its silhouette, held in the dim. The Bow Rail 12 fragmenter fed through the backup line that Mast had brought up in 28 hours of work, fired 1 round, then another, then another. The mission killed spit, went hard kill on the 2nd round. 2 of the survivors of the original spray, trying to regroup, took the 3rd round across the bracket and broke. Kill 15, Fail said. Mission kill on the 2nd karsh. Stop, Fail. Fail stopped. The Bashir held the spine. The plot showed the remaining hesh-vur ships. 6 broken spits, 1 mission killed karsh, 1 mission killed spit, all drifting at various rates from the dense pack that had come in 50 minutes before. And Quill watched them, in the dim, and he counted, in his head 1 final time. 15 confirmed kills, 2 mission kills, 17 hesh-vur ships taken out of the engagement zone in 28 hours and 43 minutes by 1 Earth Federation Picket destroyer. The plot held still. Captain Gel Erie said, Earth Federation reinforcements arriving in 12 hours. Heavy escort group. 2 cruisers, 4 destroyers, 6 corvettes. They are transmitting in the clear. They ask our status. Quill looked at the plot. He looked at the convoy. He looked at the broken hesh-vur formation drifting at the edge of the engagement zone. 28 forward. 11 wounded. 1 serious. None more. In 28 hours of work. He looked at Eivor, who was, for the first time since hour 0+7, no longer 23 years old. He looked at the cold cup of coffee in the ring of stains beside the helm. He keyed comms. Gel, send to the reinforcement group. Tell them we are engaged. Tell them we are intact. Tell them the convoy is intact. Tell them estimated time of arrival at Hollow Reach is unchanged. Then close the channel. Gel Iritan blinked her triple-pupiled eyes once. And, Captain, tell them, Quill said, that the Bashir holds the lane. Aye, Captain. Transmitting. The Bashir held the spine. The convoy held formation. The remaining hesh-vur ships, broken and drifting, did not regroup. The lane to Hollow Reach ran the last 22 hours of its long 50-hour run without a single further engagement, and the Bashir, with her broken bow plate and her sealed forward compartments and her 28 names already entered in the log under Captain Quill's own hand, held station above the freighter column and watched the long dust and the slow approach of the Earth Federation reinforcement group and the slow brightening of the Hollow Reach navigation beacons in the dim ahead. At hour 49+11, the Marith Ascent and the other 30 freighters crossed into the gravity well of Hollow Reach. The convoy spine broke into individual approach vectors. The Hollow Reach traffic control net came up clean on the long array, and the soft acknowledgments of 31 freighters checking into the dockyards came across the comms band, one after another, each in the tired voice of a master who had not expected to see the dockyards at all. At hour 50+0, the Bashir, with her broken bow and her sealed forward compartments, and her dead in the log and her wounded in the after-medical, came into the inner approach of Hollow Reach and was met by the Earth Federation reinforcement group at the outer mark. The lead cruiser of the reinforcement group, a heavy named the Trellin, hailed the Bashir on the open channel. The voice was a Federation Rear Admiral, an older woman named Vanya Sothi, who had served with Quill 9 years ago at the Tarn Belt. Bashir, Trellin, status. Quill answered himself on the bridge channel in the same flat voice he had used at hour 0+7. Trellin, Bashir, engaged 11 hulls in 50 hours, 9 killed, 2 mission killed, 6 more broken and drifting. 1 cruiser class destroyed by bow ram at hour 22+53. Convoy intact, 28 dead in the forward section. Bow plate broken, forward compartment sealed, stern operational, coming in slow. The channel was for 2 breaths silent. Then Admiral Soth came back on, and her voice was the voice of an officer who had known Captain Idris Quill for a long time. Bashir, Trellin, acknowledged. We have your forward compartments. We have your dead. Hollow Reach is ready for the convoy. The lane is yours, Captain Quill. Welcome home. Trellin, Bashir, acknowledged, coming in. Quill closed the channel. He sat in the captain's chair. He drank the last of the cold coffee in the ring of stains. He looked at Fail. He looked at Kor. He looked at Eivor, who had in 50 hours become the helmsman he would be for the rest of his career. He looked at Mast on the engineering channel, who had not slept either, who had brought the Rail 12 fragmenter to the backup line in 28 hours with his own hands. He looked at Dr. Bell on the medical channel, who had 11 living to keep living, and 1 serious to fight for, and 28 names to enter into her own log under her own hand. He looked at Yeb at the back of the bridge with the empty tray in his hands. He looked last at Geliritan. Gel. Ship. Open, Captain. All hands. This is the captain. We are in the inner approach of Hollow Reach. The convoy is intact. 31 freighters, all delivered. The Bashir held the lane. I am proud to have served with each of you on this run. We will dock in 2 hours. The wounded will go to the Hollow Reach Yard Hospital. The dead will be carried home. The Bashir will go to the yard. That's all. He closed the channel. He stood up from the captain's chair. His legs, for the first time in 50 hours, did not quite hold him. Yeb was at his elbow before he reached the chart table. Yeb did not say anything. Yeb walked him to the chart table and held his arm while he opened the drawer. Quill took out the flimsies, one at a time. The bow profile sketch of the karsh-class, the hesh-vur double bracket, the Scarrow-Meyer approach, the calculation for a Bashir class at 0.1 of light into a karsh-class bow plate, the calculation with the ugly number on it. He looked at them. He folded them. He put them in the inside pocket of his coat. He closed the drawer. He walked, with Yeb at his elbow, the length of the bridge. He stopped at the helm. Eivor, he said. The kid stood up. He came to attention. Sir, you held the line. Yes, sir. Sit down. Bring us into the yard. Slow. Yes, sir. Quill walked off the bridge. Yeb walked with him. They went down the long corridor to the captain's day cabin, past the sealed pressure door at frame 14, past the soft red emergency lights along the corridor wall, past the 2 ratings standing watch at the wounded ward, who came to attention as Quill went by. Quill nodded at each of them. He did not stop. In the day cabin, Yeb set him in the chair at the desk and poured him a small glass of water, not coffee. Eat something later, Captain. Sleep something later. I will, Yeb. Yeb left. The cabin was quiet. Quill drank the water. He took the flimsies out of his coat and set them in a small, careful stack. He opened the log. He began with the first name. He wrote it in his own small, careful hand in ink on the page, the way the gunnery instructor at the academy had taught him to write the names of the dead 19 years before. He wrote each one as if it were the only one, because for the family who would read it, it would be. Captain Quill wrote the 28th name at the bottom of the page. He set the pen down. He read the names back to himself in order, in the same flat voice he had used at hour 0+7. He closed the log. He stood up. He put on his coat. He picked up the log and walked back along the long corridor to the bridge as the Bashir made her final approach to the yard moorings at Hollow Reach. Eivor, he said, take her in. Taking her in. The Bashir came into the yard moorings under Eivor Pesh's hand, in the slow, tired cough of her old engines, with her broken bow plate iconic against the dim and her stern array hot and her dead in the forward sections, and the long, thin column of 31 freighters that she had brought across 50 hours of open lane lay behind her in the yard at Hollow Reach, all of them docked, all of them safe, every single one. Quill stood at the chart table with one hand lightly on the cover of the log. He looked through the forward viewport at the long, dim approach lights of the yard, and at the deeper dim beyond, where the hesh-vur held what they still held, where another convoy was already being prepared, and another captain was already drinking his cold cup of coffee in the ring of stains beside the helm. The mooring lines went taut. The Bashir's cough went quiet. The yard chief came on the channel. The Bashir was in. Quill picked up the log. He turned to the bridge. "Secure from general quarters," he said. "Stand down. Well done, all of you. Get warm. Get fed. Get the wounded off first. The dead come last, and they come with honors. I'll be in the day cabin with the log." "Aye, Captain," Vale said. Quill walked off the bridge with the log in his hand. He went back down the long corridor, past the sealed pressure door, past the soft red lights, past the ratings at the wounded ward, who came to attention again. He nodded at each of them. He went into the day cabin. He closed the door. He sat at the desk. He opened the log to the page he had just written. He read the 28 names one more time in his own small, careful hand, in order. He set the log down. Outside the day cabin, the long, slow business of the yard began, the gangways going out, the wounded coming off, the dead being carried home, the freighter masters checking in with the dockyards, the engineers from Mast's deck coming up to meet the yard chief, the convoy liaison Bren Kale writing his report at his small desks on the spine of the Marith ascent, the long, quiet aftermath of 50 hours of work. In the day cabin, Captain Idris Quill sat at the desk with his hand on the cover of the log. He thought for one quiet moment of the gunnery instructor who had died at the Tarn Belt 9 years ago, who had taught him to count to 11 seconds and to write the names of the dead in his own hand and to never let a convoy through under his watch. He opened the log to a fresh page, picked up the pen, and began to write the after-action report in his own small, careful hand in ink by the soft red light of the day cabin, while outside the Bashir lay in her moorings, and the Hollow Reach yard began the slow, long work of taking her apart and putting her back together for the next run. The lane was held. The convoy was home. The Bashir held the lane.